Well, the Raptors have begun training camp in Victoria, BC, as they prepare for yet another regular season. Rob Wong with you, joined alongside by Toronto Sun Raptors writer Mike Ganter, who is out in BC covering the team. Mike, I know it's early days, but what's the vibe of camp so far?
We're hearing the same two words a lot, Rob. It's a lot of comfort and a lot of confidence. And the comfort comes naturally because most of the team is back. You've got a couple of newcomers in Otto Porter Jr. and Juan Hernan Gomez. But other than that, your starting five comes back basically intact. So there's a lot of continuity, and with that, that breeds obviously a little bit more comfort. So we're hearing that a lot. We're also hearing a lot of confidence, and the confidence mostly is coming from guys like Pascal Siakam, Fred VanVleet, a lot of the veterans, and they know what they did last year. There's still a bad taste in their mouths from the way it ended in Philadelphia, particularly from Fred. To be, if I had to be completely honest, because he got hurt and wasn't able to play those last two games, and it was that one still sticks in his craw. You can tell. So I think that's the vibe. They've got something to prove, but there's a quiet confidence here. Despite what Vegas is saying about them.
Yeah, absolutely. The Raptors are trying to surprise. And, last year, one of the more surprising players on this team, Mike, was Precious Achiuwa, who turned a lot of heads. I know you recently wrote about him in the Toronto Sun. What are you expecting from him heading into his second year with the Raptors?
He made such huge strides last year. I'm not sure it's even fair to expect a lot more, but he certainly does of himself. And by all accounts, his summer has been outstanding. He's been in the gym. Him and OG apparently worked a lot together in the off season or in the summer, and he's improved. But his focus, and this is, credit Nick Nurse with this, because there's not too many guys or too many coaches that can get a guy to focus on defense the way he has, and he's in Achua's head that way. And Achua wants to be an all defensive player. I don't know if he can get there in this is his third year, second with Toronto, but that is the goal. And he is an outstanding defender. For the combination of size and speed and his ability to move his feet, he can stay with anybody, like guards, forwards, centers. It doesn't matter. And I just think that is his focus, and that being his focus is something that Nick Nurse is very, very happy about.
So obviously Achiuwa is going to be one of the players to watch during training camp. Scotty Barnes, obviously another one as well. Are there, one or two guys, maybe some of the newcomers that you're going to be keeping an eye on during training camp?
Well, mostly Barnes, to be honest, Rob, because he's the it factor, right? Or he's the X factor. This team will only progress, or this team will get progressively better as he does. And again, as a rookie, he was way ahead of the curve. And I just want to see where his game is. All of his teammates are talking about how much better he is a year out. And we can't really see that here. We get in for the last 15 minutes of practice or whatever, and they're all just shooting baskets at a backboard, and you can't tell anything. But everybody is talking about Barnes and how well he's doing. So certainly him. Hearing a lot about Hernan Gomez, actually. He's a 6'7" guy, stretches the floor, can shoot from the outside, and coming off a huge world championship with Spain, where him and his brother basically led that team. He's got a quiet confidence about him. Hasn't really established himself in this league, but hasn't really had the opportunity to. Like, they're not going to ask him to do a lot here. They basically want him to stretch the floor a little bit, use that length and his defensive instincts, which are, again, coming from Spain, are quite good. He's another guy I'll keep an eye on. And then, there's a bunch of kids, starting with Delano Banton. Another one that Nick Nurse talked about a lot in the offseason, or coming into this season. Delano is a guy who has a game that is a little bit of everything. And, behind Fred VanVleet, there's really not a guy who stands out on this team as, a backup point guard. There's a lot of talk about Pascal and Scotty and those guys bringing the ball up and facilitating that way, and maybe getting Fred VanVleet off the ball and keeping him a little fresher. But, you still need another point guard somewhere. And it feels like if it's not going to be Malachi Flynn, and we don't know that yet, but if it's not going to be him, Delano Banton's right there. So that's sort of an area I'll be watching, is behind Fred and the depth behind him.
Yeah, we'll get our look at a lot of these guys on Sunday when the Raptors take on the Utah Jazz in Edmonton at Rogers Place for their first preseason game. As always, you can find Mike's work at the Toronto Sun, and you can get him on Twitter at Mike_Ganter.